Now then, NASA's new moon rocket, Artemis II, is being moved very slowly to its launch pad ahead of takeoff, expected early February. Artemis II will be the first crew space flight to the moon's vicinity since Apollo 17 in 1972. While it won't land on our nearest celestial neighbor, it is set to lay the groundwork for a lunar landing by astronauts in the Artemis III mission that's expected in 2028. Subsequent Artemis missions are also in the works, with missions 4 and 5 involved in building Gateway, that's a small space station in the moon's orbit. Let's find out more. David Ariosto is a space journalist and author of the book Open Space: From Earth to Eternity, the global race to explore and conquer the cosmos. And he joins us from Phoenix in Arizona. So, David, good to have you with us. The rocket is being moved into position now. The launch is not until next month. So what's happening in the meantime? Could you just briefly take us through step by step?
Sure. Well, this is a beast of a rocket. Fully stacked, it's taller than the Statue of Liberty. So the thing has to move very, very slowly, less than 1 mile per hour. And it'll be rolled from the vehicle assembly building to Launch Complex 39B. This is only, I believe, Apollo 10 was launched from this in terms of moon rockets. Most of the rockets now are launched from 39A, but SpaceX is leasing that facility. So this launch complex is where Artemis will launch off. In the meantime, there'll be testing of data and cryogenics, environmental control lines, and weather sensors, and they'll be doing dry testing and wet testing, sort of a wet dress rehearsal, sort of when they load the liquid oxygen and liquid hydrogen, just like they'll do on launch day, and just basically make sure that all the connectivity between mission control and launch control and then the rocket itself are working properly. The Artemis I had some problem with hydrogen leaks. Hydrogen itself is this incredibly, absurdly small molecule, so you naturally have some leakage problems, which can affect the craft and crew while in orbit. But all systems hopefully will be go. Earliest launch window is February 6th, as you mentioned.
Well, we'll certainly be following that. But the question remains, why is the US going back to the moon at all after more than 5 decades?
It's a good question. And for those who describe this as sort of a repeat of Apollo, this couldn't be farther from the truth. The Apollo missions landed in sort of the equatorial regions of the moon, are considered considerably more flat. And landing on the moon is not easy, but in the scope of these things, landing on the lunar South Pole, where Artemis III expects to land, is infinitely harder. The reasons, however, have everything to do with building a sustained human presence. This is for strategic purposes, for mining purposes, research and science, and ultimately, perhaps as a springboard to more distant locales in our solar system. And a lot of this is being driven by what's tantamount to a space race. The Chinese space equivalents are making their push. They've made a lot of progress with the space station. Their Long March 10, which is equivalent to a Starship rocket, is quickly in development. And they have plans to land astronauts by 2030 with a permanent lunar station in tandem with the Russians by 2035. So, as we push out, humanity pushes out into the solar system, takes advantage of some of the resources and strategic relevance of putting both systems, AI systems, and lunar mining systems on orbit. A lot of this seems to be driven, in fact, by the concerns of potentially falling behind, much like what happened in the first race with the Soviet Union.
Though, talking about falling behind, NASA is in the driver's seat. But it's not going it alone. You already mentioned SpaceX. Who else is on board?
Yeah, this is it's a cobbled together effort. Lockheed Martin is the primary builder of the capsule, the Orion capsule. They'll bring astronauts back. They had some problems with the heat shield during Artemis I, and that capsule is going to be returning at temperatures of more than, or really up to 5,000 degrees Fahrenheit. So, having that heat shield in place is really important. The European Space Agency has built the service module, which will serve as the vehicle to take the capsule and after the initial stage launch into translunar injection. This capsule and this craft will be farther out in space than we have ever gone as a species. So basically orbiting the moon at a far more elliptical orbit, and then we'll be landing in a place that we've never landed before.
It is a concerted effort, and David, as much as I would listen, I'd love to listen on longer because this is fascinating. Sadly, we're running out of time. But journalist and author David Ariosto in Phoenix, Arizona. Thank you so very much for that.
Thanks for having me.